Hi. So our speaker this morning will be ziplining in any moment. I've got a couple of announcements first. First of all, be sure to complete your conference evaluation and place it in the box out at the registration desk. And also, as you leave the conference, we like to get these name holder badges, badge name holders back. So if you could drop those in the box as well, that would be very beneficial for us. I want to draw your attention to a minor issue with your printed program. So if you have that handy, take a look at this afternoon's session at 1 o'clock in Cohiba 11. It's entitled Strategic Communication and Collaboration, a Case Study. The issue with that is that the abstract listed below is incorrect. That's actually a duplicate of the session that group is doing tomorrow. So let me quickly give you the abstract for the 1 o'clock session today. The title is correct. Abstract is most higher education institutions, particularly when geographically dispersed, are challenged to implement tools and practices to effectively collaborate. Advisory groups outside formal governance can be highly productive when built on democratic foundations, with both campus-based and system leadership encouraging and reinforcing grassroots interest that produces tangible results. This presentation offers specific information from a panel of key stakeholders who took steps to reinvigorate a system-wide faculty staff advisory group. Following a period of relatively routine activity, this advisory group worked with high-level administrators to align issues with the Power of SUNY strategic plan. In parallel with this effort, other administrative changes were undertaken at the system administration level to rethink shared service, delivery, and communication. So make a note of that, please. Thank you very much. And I'm here to also introduce our keynote speaker this morning. Bill Butterworth is going to speak with us about balancing work and life. Let me tell you just a little bit about Bill here first. Bill taught at the college level for 13 years and was a counselor for 6 years prior to his current passion for motivating men and women in the workplace. Because of his remarkable abilities, Bill has been awarded the Hal Holbrook Award by the International Platform Association, whose past and present members include Mark Twain, Theodore Roosevelt, Bob Hope, and Elizabeth Dole. Since 1988, Bill has traveled full-time, speaking to hundreds of audiences as small as 18 and as large as 18,000. His Fortune 500 clients include Microsoft, Verizon, the Walt Disney Company, Bank of America, Allstate, Hilton Hotels. There's a long list here in front of me. I won't go through all of them. Plus, Bill has addressed 26 teams in the National Football League, as well as over a dozen teams in Major League Baseball. Bill, I need to get you to talk to my Cubs. In 2004, Bill established the Butterworth Communicators Institute to train men and women to find their speaking voice and raise their speaking ability to the next level. In the writing world, Bill's latest contribution is a series of business books with the overall title, On the Fly. Besides the On the Fly series, Bill has written over a dozen books, including The Promise of the Second Wind and When Life Doesn't Turn Out Like You Planned. Please join me in welcoming Bill Butterworth.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Well, thank you, Jim. Good morning, everyone. I understand in preparation for this morning's presentation, you were out all night carousing. So this is why I get paid the big bucks. I have no idea what I'm going to say. I just need to keep you awake, right? I've got that. That comatose reply says everything I need to know. Okay. So before you doze off, let me just say, first of all, a word of thanks to this organization for inviting me to be here. My sense as a former educator is that you all don't get appreciated like you should back on your campuses. And I just want to let you know I appreciate all the hard work you do and the hours you give that nobody else ever sees other than your spouse or significant other when they don't see you. And I want you to know I appreciate what you contribute to the education of our collegians. So thank you for that. I want to begin with a story. I believe that long after you forget bullet points and fill in the blanks and rhyming phrases, you will remember stories. And I want to tell you a little story about my family. I have 5 children. They're all grown, by the way, and gone. Yes. And love them all. I have a daughter. I have 4 sons. They're all J's: Joy, Jesse, Jeffrey, John, and Joseph. All right. When they were younger and still living at home, because of the nature of what I do, traveling a lot, I do about 100 dates a year, our time together is usually a little more varied than a Monday through Friday kind of job. And so we always looked forward to the summertime, because when they were out of school in the summer, they would oftentimes travel with me. And there was a place that I would speak every year. I still speak there. It's been like 30 years now. That would be kind of like a kinder, gentler version of a Las Vegas casino. It's more of a conference center type of setting. And what they would do in the summer is they would bring in speakers for the adults, and then they would also provide speakers for the children that were age appropriate, and we would have a week of family inspiration and recreation and kind of, getting everything back together. So we had been there for a number of years, and I took my kids there, and it would start on a Sunday evening and would go through Saturday breakfast, a full week. So we got there Sunday night, we did the whole deal, and I was hired as the morning speaker, much like this segment, wake everybody up after a rousing night of doing whatever they were doing. Now, this conference center was directly east of Los Angeles in Southern California, up in the mountains, if you know the Big Bear, Lake Arrowhead area up there, okay? So we're up in this Big Bear area, and Monday morning comes, and I get to address all the adults while my children are being taught in their age-appropriate children's sessions. So we all meet back together for lunch, and we will have the afternoon together to do whatever we want. So the kids come back from their morning session with a classic illustration of reverse psychology and child psychology, because they come and they sit at the table, and immediately they say, "Dad, guess what they told us in class today?" I said, "What?" They said, "Boys and girls, don't go to the lake today. There's something new and scary at the lake. Please tell your parents, don't go to the lake. There's something up there. It's called the blob. Don't go there, boys and girls. Please." And then, of course, there's the appropriate pause, and then immediately followed with, "So can we hurry up and finish lunch and go up to the lake and see the blob?" It's like perfect reverse psychology. So we head up to the lake to see the blob. Now, from that description, does anybody know what I'm talking about when I'm referring to a blob? Yes, usually that's about right, about 3 people in a room. Here's what I want you to think of to get a blob in your mind. Remember when we were little and we used to get into those inflatable, those old spare tires and go down the river? Okay? Instead of a donut, I want you to think of a giant hot dog. Okay? A blob, same kind of material, rubber. You inflate it, but the blob is huge. It's like about 10 feet wide and about 40 feet long. Okay? And you put a blob in a body of water, ideally a lake. Okay? And you put one end of the hot dog by the shore, conveniently located under a high dive. Okay? And then the front part of the blob heads towards the center of the lake. Now, the way you find grand entertainment with the blob is, one by one, people jump off the high dive and land on the back end of the blob. So you have a person on the back end of the blob. They scooch up to the front end of the blob, give an okay signal that they are ready, in blob terminology, to be launched. And a next person jumps off the high dive, hits the back end of the blob. It sends the person on the front end, arms and legs flailing into the center of the lake, and there's a segment of the population that thinks this is enjoyable. All right? So, it's the first summer that this device has been in place. Apparently, Arnold T. Blob has just invented this thing, and there are still some glitches in the technology. First thing we discover is this. Again, I hearken back to the river. Ever jump in one of those inner tubes after they've been baking in the sun all day? Whew, that's one hot tire. Well, that's one hot blob. Easy solve, easy solve. They put a garden hose up off the high dive that's constantly spraying water on the blob. The blob is no longer hot. Now we have a new problem. That is one slippery blob. So I am watching children, and I've never seen children so patient in all my life. One by one, this line is huge. They jump off the high dive, hit the back end of the blob, whoop, and slip right into the water. Swim to shore, get back in line. As the week progresses, the children are getting a little further out, about halfway, whoop, and they go down and get in line. My greatest sympathy is for the poor kid. He gets onto the back of the blob, gets all the way out to the front, but while he's giving the okay sign, he slips off, all right? That is one frustrated kid, all right? Now, all humility aside, I tell this story with a degree of pride because my oldest son, who was about 10 years old at the time, was one of the first little ones to conquer the blob. He hits the back end. Somehow he stays on board. He scooches all the way out to the front, and he gives the OK sign, ready to be launched. I'm watching with great pride, and I'm looking to see who's on the high dive, the next person that's going to launch my son. And of course, this brings up the next glitch in blob technology. They had not yet discovered what they would call the importance of small weight differential. This means you want someone launching you that weighs approximately what you weigh. So here's my 10-year-old little tow-headed son ready to be launched, and I recognize the person who's going to launch my son. I met him early in the week at the adult meeting. He came up to me afterwards, and as Jim had mentioned in the introduction, he said, "I thought I recognized you. You speak to the NFL, don't you?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, don't you recognize me? I played for the Raiders. I'm retired now. I was an offensive lineman. I've put on a little weight, but you should recognize me." This is the person that's going to launch my son. So he takes off. He hits the back end of the blob. My dear little son, Jesse, here we are in Big Bear. Radar picks him up in Albuquerque. I think he landed in West Texas somewhere. Finally gets back to shore. Those of you that are kids know exactly what he said as soon as he got back to shore. "That was great. Can we do it again?" All right. Now, I start with that story because, as a professional guest, my biggest fear is that I'm always going to come in and start with a story that you just heard in an earlier session by another speaker. I think I might be safe on this one because I have a metaphor I'm doubtful you've ever heard before. Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin this morning, please understand, life is a blob. Now, let me tell you what I mean by that. We're going to go back to 8th grade science class, all right? When you try to achieve success on the blob, the first thing you need to master, our 8th grade science teacher would tell us, is dynamic equilibrium. Dynamic equilibrium. You and I know it better as balance. All right? There's a reason why you and I have trouble maintaining dynamic equilibrium on the blob. It's because of another 8th grade science term that we all know. Gravity. Gravity is pulling us every which direction to take us off balance on the blob. However, in most contexts, including here today, this morning, gravity is a good thing. Gravity is our friend. If there was not gravity today, you would all be up there in the lights, on the ceiling, in a very uncomfortable position. Okay? But because gravity is here, you are seated comfortably in your seat. Okay? Now, I start this way because as we approach the subject of balancing work and life, and I've talked about this for 25 years now, I have met so many people who have come up with so many creative excuses as to why they don't have balance in their life. But one of them that I won't take as an acceptable excuse from a fine, upstanding group like you is that, I could be more balanced in my life if I just got rid of all the bad things in my life. That's usually not where most of us struggle. We all have, like gravity, good things that are pulling us every which direction. If I talk to you afterwards one-on-one and you say to me, my life is all out of balance and I can tell you why. I just had no idea it would be so time-consuming to buy and sell illegal drugs. I mean, it just eats up all my free time. I doubt anyone would say that to me. Might be true, but you won't say it to me. No, you're not dealing illegal drugs. Nobody would come up and say, you know, the problem with me and balance in my life is I'm part of a group that produces elaborate bank robberies. And the planning for that thing just sucks the life out of... No, that's not an issue. My guess is I'm looking at men and women who have a sea of really good things in their life, and you're trying to maintain dynamic equilibrium. All right? You're employed. That's a good thing. Ask anybody who's not employed right now. They'd trade places with you in a minute. So you've got a job. That's one thing. How many of you have a partner, a spouse, a significant other? Would you raise your hand? Okay, pretty popular with this group. All right, parents. Who are the parents in the group? Who have kids? Okay, any grandparents? Okay, how many of you have or at one time had parents? Would you raise your hand? Okay, not as many as I had thought with that last one, but nonetheless. So we all have family commitments as well. We've got our job, we've got family commitments. You perhaps want to be involved in your community. You want to be involved, you want to work out every day. You want to join a bowling league. You want to be involved at your church or synagogue or mosque. You want to do all sorts of things. And every one of those things, good things, but they're all pulling you in different directions. So what I want to do in a few minutes this morning is just offer a very simple strategy for you and for me to consider. And I say for me because you need to understand, folks, balance is not the kind of thing you get handled once for all. You can figure out balance this morning and have to address it again tomorrow or Monday or next Thursday. Okay? It's a constant. It's liquid. It just keeps happening. But I would like to suggest to you, if you're a note taker, and I know enough as a counselor to know that there are different personality types in the room, and some of you just went haywire when I started by saying I like to tell stories, because you're more of a data person. You've been here for 8 minutes now, and you have nothing written or typed other than, it's a blob. And this will not score big points when you go home to prove to the university that you are truly here and not in the casino. So I want to give you some data to write down if that's important to you. It's very simple, but it's very, very important, okay? We're going to talk about 3 reasons why you and I tend towards imbalance in life. We're going to give you an antidote for each. And interwoven in this presentation about balance, I want to talk to you about 2 other very important aspects of your life. And that is the importance of teamwork, the importance of working together, and the importance of your role as a leader. Okay? So it's a real potpourri. We're going to talk about balancing work and life, building successful teams, and how to be the ideal leader. Okay? The main presentation is going to be all about balance in life. Okay? You and I tend towards imbalance because of 3 reasons: the hazies, the lazies, and the crazies. Okay? There we are. Thank you very much. Good night. No, let's talk about each one of those, explain what they mean, and give you a little bit of an antidote for each. All right? Haziness. The definition of haziness is losing sight of your goals in your life, or losing sight of what's important in your life. Okay? It's the whole idea that you've heard for years from a million motivational speakers and positive people who are kind of saying, what you need to do is you need to figure out your priorities, you need to figure out what's important in your life, and you need to live your life that way. And that's very easy to say, but very hard to do. Years ago, I saw a little pamphlet. It wasn't even a book, but it was a pamphlet. I never forgot the title. It was called Tyranny of the Urgent. Tyranny of the Urgent. And the premise of the pamphlet is that even though all of us have important things in our life, we allow urgent things to come in and take our attention away from what's important. You're ready to leave your facility when you get a call or an email or a text that you're needed to create something else for another professor, another classroom, or whatever, and they need it right away. And you're faced with the dilemma, well, do I fulfill this request or do I go home and do what I'm supposed to do? Here you have the important fighting the urgent. Haziness is losing sight of what's important in your life. It's smog, it's fog, it's haze. It's stuff that gets in the way, all right? My favorite illustration of haziness occurred right here in this city. Much like this presentation, I'm often hired to come in and speak to a group just like you, and many times I'm the only outside speaker that will be brought in. And because of that, I'm usually given a really sweet time frame to speak to people. Maybe like 9 in the morning after people have been out all night. Or, more commonly, I'll come in and a group will have all morning with what they call internal speakers, which many people find synonymous with boring. You know, they have a notebook the size of an LA phone book, and they say, our presentation today, turn to section 3, subsection 4, paragraph 8, let's read aloud sentence 6. And everyone's like, you know. So in a place like Las Vegas, we do it right here in a ballroom, and then we have a morning of less than exciting speakers, and then to top it off, the steam tables are once again open, and we go to the all-you-can-eat pasta bar. And then 1:30 comes along, and they ask me to wake everybody up. And typically they'll say, now, you better be good, because at 3 o'clock, the president of the company is coming in to give the state of the company address. And he wants his people energized. Can you do it? Yeah, I can do it. So, I'm in Las Vegas. It's a Fortune 500 company. It's a Fortune 500 company you would all know. And it's that routine. It's morning internal speakers, all-you-can-eat pasta bar. I'm on at 1:30. President of the company, CEO, is on at 3 o'clock. So, I'm at the all-you-can-eat pasta bar, watching people fall into their ribbon pasta before my eyes. And the meeting planner comes over and says, so you're on, right? You're going to get everybody excited? Yeah. And the president's well, the president's here. He'd like a few minutes with you. Would you like to come over and meet the president? I said, sure, I'd be glad to. So I go over and I meet the president of this Fortune 500 company. He goes through the same rigmarole. My people look a little drowsy. You're going to motivate them, right? You're going to get them up. I said, yep, that's what I do. He said, that's great, because I'm on right after you, and I want my people pumped. I said, you got it, sir. We're going to do it. And then, I'll never forget, he kind of leans in a little bit, and he says to me, you want to hear about what I'm doing in my presentation? And I have learned through the years, at this point, honesty isn't necessarily the best policy. What I want to say is, frankly, no, if you can just have my check ready, I'll be out of here. But I've learned to say, oh, yeah, I want to hear all about your presentation. So he leans in even further. We're getting really bizarre now. He's like right in my face, whispering in my ear. It's kind of CIA. Once I tell you this, I'm going to have to shoot you kind of thing. And I'm afraid he leans in, and he begins by describing his presentation to me with this phrase. He goes, well, I just turned 45. And he stops. Now, my years as a counselor, I can't tell you how many people, especially men, would come in for counseling, and I'd say, what's going on? And they would begin to describe their issue by saying, well, I just turned 45. Midlife, and I got me a sports car, or I got me a girlfriend, or I got me an uncontrollable urge to unbutton my shirt down to my belly button and wear gold chains and look all stupid. And I'm thinking, what is this guy going to say? What's this all about? He goes, I just turned 45, and he finishes, and I just got me a Harley. And I'm thinking, whew, okay, at least it's something legal. But I still don't understand what's going on. He says, I got permission from the casino. I'm going to drive my Harley into the ballroom to make my presentation. We got a ramp set up onto the platform. I'm going to come through the double doors. I'm going to be dressed head to toe, black leather. We're going to have Steppenwolf on the intercom. Get your motor running. Head out on the highway. It's going to be amazing. Now, while he's saying that, my attitude is changing completely. I am now in a mood of, man, I am not going to miss this presentation for the world. So, 1:30 comes, I get everybody all pumped up. 3 o'clock comes, I remember I'm sitting over here, kind of like where Jim and I were sitting earlier, and I suddenly realize I really am the only guy in the room that knows what's going to happen. And in this particular case, the doors aren't over to the side, the doors are in the very back. And I hear in the back kind of rum, rum, and people are like, wow, I wonder what that is. Like there's a hot rod in the parking lot or something. Rum, rum. And all of a sudden, the double doors open, and this extravaganza is going to begin. Except, there's one thing about his presentation he neglected to tell me, and it ended up being really key. Y'all know what a smoke machine is? They use them at like rock concerts and stadiums and arenas. I mean, back then it looked like a can of peaches, and you hit the eject button, and all of a sudden there's smoke, okay? He wanted a smoke machine for part of his presentation. And actually, that's not exactly accurate, because if he wanted a smoke machine, that would have worked. But folks, when the 16 smoke machines went off simultaneously, folks, I've never experienced anything like it in my life. In a matter of a second, you could not see your hand if it was 4 inches in front of you. All you can do is hear, and it's rum, rum, get your motor running. You know, and if you're my age, I can hear guys saying like, whoa, I thought I gave all this stuff up in the 60s. You know, what's this all about? You know, rum, rum, rum. And you hear this sound all the way up to the platform, and all of a sudden, you hear the president's voice at the lectern, at the mic. Well, wasn't that really something? And honestly, I'm hearing people around my age saying like, oh, that sounds like our president. What's our president doing in my bad drug dream? And I thought to myself, man, if there was ever a good illustration of the hazies, that's it. Because, I mean, I realize we're not supposed to be respecter of persons, but let's be honest. When the president of the organization is in the room, you want to pay attention to him or her more than anybody else. And we couldn't because the haze had distracted us. I live in Southern California. I live in a wonderful community right by the water, Newport Beach, California. And we go through a time every year, right around June, they call it June Gloom. And when I wake up every morning, instead of seeing the beautiful water, I see fog, or smog, as many people think. And I wake up very disgruntled, and my poor wife, she has to deal with this every day, because I say, I can't believe it. Here I am on the water, and you realize, of course, I'm paying $1,000 a month to enjoy this water, and I can't even see it. This is why I'm doing so much work. It's speaking, writing, got the UPS route. I mean, I'm trying to do all this stuff so that we can afford this. And my wife's sort of like, relax, dear, relax. You know what happens? Come 11 o'clock, it'll all burn off, and you can see why you get 7 minutes every day before you have to go to work to enjoy it. Okay? It's getting rid of the fog, the smog, the smoke, the haziness in your life. How do you do that? How do you get past the distractions in your life? Well, here we go. Note-taker alert. Not only are we going to write something down, you get to be creative. If you want to take official notes this morning, I want you to draw on your paper or on your iPad or your laptop an equilateral triangle. But wait, most people, when they draw an equilateral triangle, they draw it like a pyramid. Maybe you've already been to the Luxor. You see how that works, all right? At the wide part at the bottom up to the point. I want you to flip it. I want the point to be at the bottom, equilateral with what we would call the base up top. Okay, you got it? Now I want you to write 3 words at each point, 1 word each at each point of the triangle. Up at the top, I want you to write the words attention, and I want you to write the word connection. Okay? Attention and connection. Now we'll get to the 3rd word in a minute. We will beat the hazies by pursuing and practicing our priorities. Okay? Not just having priorities, but pursuing them and practicing them. And this is what I call the priorities triangle that will help you understand why you and I have such a hard time maintaining balance in our life. Attention relates to tasks that we need to give time to, that we need to give attention to. Jobs, responsibilities, tasks. Connection has to do with the relationships that we have in our lives. Okay, now, hold that for a second. Let me insert something here that's very, very important. Whether you realize it or not, no matter where you fall in your university organizational chart, you, young lady, young man, are a leader. You have people that you are influencing. You have people that you are leading. Organizational psychologists have been testing people for years about their leadership potential. And one of the measurements that they use, which I heartily endorse, and I think it's really, really great, goes like this. If I was an organizational psychologist and my job was to test this group for leadership potential, statistically, it would usually work that we could divide this room in half, right down this center aisle. Half of you are what the organizational psychologists would call task-oriented leaders. It's all about the job. The other half of you are called relationship-oriented leaders. It's all about the people. Okay? Now, interestingly enough, the statistics also show that there's no advantage either way. Task-oriented leaders are equally effective as relationship-oriented leaders. Attention-oriented leaders are equally as effective as connection-oriented leaders. Okay? Your superior gives you an assignment. You got a job to do, you got 6 weeks to do it, go for it. Task-oriented people focus on that 6 week. Okay, here's what we're going to have done by week 2. Here's what we're going to have done by week 4. I want the whole thing done by week 5 so that we have a week for damage control if we don't have it all together. By the end of 6 weeks, it'll all be done. All right? Perfect. All right? Relationship-oriented people, you got 6 weeks to do this, go. First thing a relationship-oriented person thinks is, I can't do this by myself. I need a team. I need a dream team. So I'm going to get Joe on marketing. I'm going to get Sally on sales. And I'm going to get, and we're all going to celebrate afterwards at the end of 6 weeks with a giant party. Relationship-oriented leaders love parties, love food. Relationship-oriented people are usually bigger than task-oriented people. But you see what I'm saying? They both have 6 weeks. They both get it done. Now, you probably know what you are. If you need a little bit of help, let me give you the one. Task-oriented people. You do have a tell, as they say in the poker table. You do have a tell. Task-oriented people, task-oriented people are absolutely anatomically attached to a to-do list. You love to-do lists. Whether it's on your phone or your laptop, or you even write it on a 3x4. There's something amazing about creating that to-do list. Only eclipsed by putting that little check by each task that you fulfill. To a task-oriented person, this is better than sex. It's the most amazing thing in all the world to be able to put a check by every task you accomplish. All right? Relationship-oriented people, like I said, you love meetings. You love food. You know, every leadership question. That's a good question. Meet me tomorrow for bagels. We'll talk about it. I think we need more discussion on this. Let's do barbecue at lunch, and we'll throw it around. All right? Oh, that's a hot item. All right? Who can bring deli? And we will discuss. You know, so you get an idea of what's going on. Now, I know enough about this subject to know that most of you probably know where you fall in that. And there's another thing that happens in the human condition. You think your way's best and the other people are morons. You don't have to admit, but I can see it in your face. It's like, you got me wired there, blonde boy. I'm a task-oriented guy. Relationship-oriented people drive me nuts. Everything's a meeting. Let's have a meeting. I spend so much time in their meetings. All I'm doing is getting fat. And I got 15 more things on my to-do list after I finish their meeting. I need a little help. These relationship-oriented people are killing me. And the relationship-oriented people respond with, oh, you task-oriented people. You're cold. You're distant. You're aloof. You're alone. Task-oriented people say, I'm not alone. I got it right here on my to-do list. Make a friend. Now, again, I don't mean to insult anybody's intelligence, but I'm keeping this really, really basic because I need it that way. Even with just what I've said so far, can you not see why so many of us struggle with balance in our lives? Are there not task-oriented people in this room that can relate to putting your head on the pillow after a very effective day and finding yourself with a double-barreled shotgun of final thoughts? First barrel, wow, what a great day. I got everything checked off my list. It was beautiful. Followed by the second barrel, and I don't think I talked to a soul. They tell me this is not healthy. And what relationship-oriented person can't relate to putting their head on the pillow? Barrel number one. Wow, what a great day. I had breakfast with Harry and lunch with Sally and dinner with John and drinks with Frank. And it's like, followed by the second barrel. I got to get some stuff done. I got to do a presentation at this convention. I got no idea. Is this not explaining for some of us why we end up out of balance in life? It's just the way we're wired. We're so wired to do tasks, we forget people, the important people in our lives. When I married you, I didn't realize I'd only see you 8 minutes a week. And even then, you're reading data. Oh, that's sad. Well, that's a task-oriented person who's completely forgotten about the relationships in his life. Or the relationship-oriented person. Well, I'm sorry, kids. They decided to let me go because I didn't do any of the projects I told them I would do in the last 3 business quarters. But man, I sure met a lot of great people. It's a beautiful country, kids. Whew. How do we bring balance between attention and connection? It's that third element at the bottom. It's what I call reflection. Okay? Reflection. And what is reflection? To use what my grandmother used to say to me and turn it on its upside down, my grandmother would say, don't just do something, sit there. What? Yeah, sit there by yourself. Now, when I say that, it probably registers an uncomfortable feeling to you. Solitude, silence, quiet time, meditation, introspection, that's all viewed very suspiciously in our culture. Good reasons. I know many of you have served hard time at a prison. What's the most severe punishment when you misbehave, when you're a bad prisoner? Solitary. Put them in the hole. Uh-oh. We follow that with our parenting, don't we? You go to your room, young lady. You think about what you've done. No, Daddy, please. No, I'm serious. You go to your room. You watch the small TV. It's tough love, darling. Solitary is the biggest punishment. But I'd like to suggest to you that if you're going to get serious about balance in your life, you need to give it regular attention, if not daily attention. Now, this is certainly not new with me. The one most recently to make it really, really popular is Covey in his 7 Habits. The whole idea of a time to just get your head together. And let me offer a very simple way to begin it. If you are task-oriented, the way to begin your time of reflection is, what am I going to do today to build more relationship into my schedule? I got to get intentional. I can't just wait for people to show up at my cubicle or at my office. I got to make sure I'm getting with the people that are most important. And if you're relationship-oriented, the way to begin is, how am I going to get something done today? Do I need to put Do Not Disturb on my door? Do I need to not check my emails every 7 seconds? Email has killed the American productivity. Why? Curiosity. Every time you hear that, whoop, another email. And you know in your heart of hearts, it's spam. It's junk. How you can get a better rate on your mortgage. how you can be more sexually fulfilled, how you can take over a small Caribbean nation. But you think to yourself, nope, could be the White House. They may need tech support. I'm the man, I'm the gal. And you look, and sure enough, how to take over Barbados. All right, well, anyway, we've got to get intentional. And it all comes through reflection. Okay? Don't be afraid to embrace reflection. Attention, connection, reflection. That's how to beat the hazies. Okay? Losing sight of your pursue and practice your priorities. Okay, here's the second malady that we deal with. It's called the lazies. Now, this is not laziness in the traditional sense. You wouldn't be here this morning if you were lazy. You'd still be in bed saying, well, I deserve it. I was up at Fremont, till God knows when. So, no, you're here. Okay. Here's my definition of laziness. Lacking the self-discipline to bring your life into balance. Lacking the self-discipline to bring your life into balance. Now, I've waited this long in the presentation, hopefully to gain a little bit of attaboy points with you so you won't think me so rude with what I'm about to say. But this is hard stuff for some people to hear. But please hear me before you start throwing things, okay? My experience, especially as a counselor, tells me that balance, like most other issues in life, is an issue that we want to blame on somebody else. My life is out of balance, and it's the university's fault. My life is out of balance because you don't understand the person I'm living with. My life is out of balance because you don't understand what it was like to grow up being told you were stupid and not unproductive, and now I finally got some place that really loves me and wants to use. I may be out of it, but you don't understand the financial pressure I'm under. I may be out of balance, but you don't understand my parents. You fill in the blank. It doesn't make any difference. The issue is, the term is blame shifting. I'm a mess, and it's all your fault. Okay? Now, here's the bonus takeaway. I want to give you $10,000 worth of personal therapy in the next 15 seconds. Okay? Are you listening? $10,000 worth of therapy in the next 15 seconds. Are you ready? Here it comes. You're right. Your mother is one messed up lady. Get over it. All right, are we clear on that? That'll be $10,000. Thank you very much. Now look, if you've got issues with your mother, most of us do, it's no big, I understand, I'm not minimizing, I'm not trying to be an idiot. But what I'm saying is, so many of us hide behind blaming other people and don't step up to the plate and say, my life is out of balance, I'm not going to take it anymore, I'm going to get intentional and figure out what I need to do to bring balance into my life. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to be the responsible person. Okay? You need to think of life as a long-distance marathon race. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And so, to beat the lazies, you need to pursue and practice endurance. Get the big picture. Get endurance. All right, you ready to draw your equilateral triangle a second time? Keep the point at the bottom. Here are the words we want you to add on this one. Here's the endurance triangle. Upper left-hand corner, you're going to write the word forecast, F-O-R-E-C-A-S-T. Upper right-hand corner, you're going to write focus. And then down at the bottom, you're going to write the word fun. Forecast, focus, fun. All begin with the letter F. That's supposed to somehow make it more memorable. Yet I have to now take the next 5 minutes to explain what all those words mean. Forecast is my, pardon the expression, F word for planning. You will never achieve balance in your life by waiting for it to come to you. If the chancellor of the university puts an edict, everyone at this school will be balanced, it still ain't going to happen. You've got to take responsibility. You've got to plan it out. Now, interestingly enough, having spoken on this for 25 years ago, this was the big point I had to hammer home. Come on, boys and girls, you need a plan. Make a plan. Make a plan. 25 years later, today, my experience is most people in this room probably have a plan. It's the next word where we fall short. It's the word focus. Focus means work the plan. Work the plan. Just don't make it a file in your laptop. Don't just make it something that's, an inspirational poster in your office with a soaring eagle that you got out of some airline catalog. Work it. Work the plan. And when you do, celebrate. That's what fun is all about. Celebrating. We'll talk about fun a little bit more as we start to wrap this thing up with the last triangle. All right? Forecast, focus, fun. That's how to build endurance in your life. Now, when I was working on the book that came out as a result of this presentation, Jim mentioned it, On the Fly Guide to Balancing Work and Life. Doubleday gave me this contract. It was just going to be the next biggest bestseller and of course you all know about it because I'm sure the 7 people that bought that book are all in this room today at some place. But I do a lot of work with a real hard-driving group of executives called the Young Presidents Organization, YPO. Anybody ever heard of YPO? Okay. You got to be really successful, really rich, really, off the chart, and completely out of balance in your life to be in YPO. So I'm talking about this subject, and it's afterwards, and I'm chit-chatting with and a guy comes up to me, a guy I know, and he says, so you're working on a book on balance, huh? I said, yeah. He says, I hate that word balance. Well, knowing his life, I thought, well, I'm not surprised. He said, no, it's not what you think. I don't think balance really describes what people are looking for. I got another word that I like that's better than balance. I said, well, I'm intrigued. What's your word? He said, my word is blending. Blending. I said, what's the deal? He said, my understanding of balance, it kind of gives the idea of either or. I'm either going to do this or I'm going to do that. Blending is more both and. Maybe I can bring both of these elements together and achieve a good result with them happening simultaneously. I said, okay, you have an example? And he smiled real big. He said, oh yeah, I got the best example you'll ever hear. And I will say in front of this is the most perfect story I've ever heard. This just doesn't happen all that much. But I want to give you this guy's story so that you can start thinking about how you can blend and bring endurance through the endurance triangle in your life. So this guy is the president of a manufacturing company. He makes widgets or whatever. And he's out on the West Coast. He's in Southern California. He lives real near me. And he says, so I get a call from my biggest customer. He's out in Texas. We'll call him Tex. And Tex is about my age. And Tex calls and he says, hey, buddy, I'm going to be in your neck of the woods here in a few weeks. I want to come visit you. And my friend is like, oh, that's great, because we have a whole new line of widgets. I want you to see these. You're going to place the biggest order. I mean, you're going to love it. Well, that's great. Let me give you the exact date I'm going to be there. And my friend goes to his calendar, and he sees the ultimate compromise in American culture. Oh, no. The day Tex is coming is the day of my son's final Little League game. And we all know the mark of your parenting is how many of these games you attend. That someday you will stand before the Little League God and give account for how many home runs or strikeouts you missed, right? Okay. So he's like, oh, he's crushed because he realizes he hasn't been at very many of these games to begin with. And he promised his son he would be at the last one. So he has to think quick on the phone. He makes a plan. Tex, you come that day. And let me tell you what, I want to plant a seed in your mind. When you come that day, you're going to see our new widgets. And our new widgets are a home run. They're a grand slam, Tex. You get ready for it. Hangs up the phone with Tex, calls his personal assistant in, says, I want you to go down to Big Five Sporting Goods. I want you to buy everything related to baseball you can find. The assistant says, what are we going to do? He says, we're going to transform my office into a major league dugout. We're going to have bats, balls, gloves, batting gloves, catcher's equipment, batting helmets. I want it to look like a clubhouse because when Tex comes, we're going to hit a grand slam home run. So Tex shows up a few weeks later, and this whole office has been changed into this beautiful Major League Baseball dugout, clubhouse. And Tex is loving it because he's a ball fan. He loves it. So the metaphor lasts all through the day. Let's show you this new widget. You know, the widget from 2 years ago was a solid triple. This one before was a double. We've made so much improvement. This is a grand slam home run. And just as he suspected, Tex gives my friend the biggest order of his relationship with him. So it's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and to Tex, it feels like the day is winding down. And my friend says, well, Tex, I told you this was going to be a grand slam day. We're not done. There's another part of this day you need to hear. Tex says, really? What are we going to do? He says, Tex, I'm taking you to a baseball game. And Tex says, oh, the Dodgers are in town? And my friend kind of swallows hard, and he goes, no, Tex, they're not. We're not going to Dodger Stadium. We're going to my son's Little League game. And it gets real quiet. And my friend says, I'm dying a slow death. I know I've overstepped my bounds. It's just bad news. And Tex finally responds. His eyes are welled up with tears. And he says, how'd you know I like Little League games? And my friend's like, what in the world is going on? And like I said, Tex is my age, and I fit this perfectly. He says, you know, my kids are too old to play Little League, and my grandkids are too little to play Little League. I miss Little League. Nothing would be better than going to a Little League game with you. And my friend is energized. He's like, all right, it's all come together. So he takes Tex to the Little League game. Tex, bless his heart, he doesn't even know who the players are. He's the loudest cheerer on the sidelines. You'd think there was a beer cart out there. He's just going like crazy. Hey, go. What's your boy's name? Go, Frankie! And when the game's over, he has my friend asks his son to pick a friend to go with him. They're going to go out for burgers and fries and milkshakes. And the four of them are sitting in this booth, and every conceivable communication is happening. The adults are talking while the boys are talking. The adults are talking to the boys one-on-one. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. They planned it, they carried out the plan, and they celebrated it. It was a day of blending. Everybody got what they wanted. Now, I'll repeat what I said at the beginning. That's the perfect storm. I'm sure that's not going to happen most days in your world where you work, but it's something to shoot for because it shows us that if we get intentional, leave laziness, and start talking about what's really significant to other people, that's when we're going to start seeing how to get all this stuff coming together in our lives. And see, when you do that, you see how he started bringing other people into the story. He needed his personal assistant. He needed his little son. That's what teamwork is all about, working together with the people that are around you. Now, I confess, I really can't say I know everything about what all of you do for a living, but I really don't need to know everything you do for a living. If you are a human being and not a robot, you understand that oftentimes it's just human nature to be resistant in terms of building a team. Teams can be threatening. Teams can provide an unhealthy competition. Teams can cause someone else to get the credit when you did the job. It's much easier to be a lone ranger. It's much easier to be isolated. It's much easier to be just the go-to guy, and you've got it all figured out. But what we need to understand, ladies and gentlemen, is that for life to be successful, there needs to be an element of teamwork, and an element of teamwork is that we all work together and we all have jobs that we do well. Nothing is a better illustration of this than a football team on the football field. Okay? Now, for all you sports fans, for all of you that aren't sports fans, give me just a few minutes. I'll weed through this and we'll be done. But many times people want to know, 26 teams in the National Football League, what in the world is that all about? Well, it's a very wonderful opportunity for me because, I'm a diehard sports fan. Love sports. I mean, if you were asking me, what's my favorite speaking opportunity of all time, obviously you would be the top of the list. But then second would be the 26 National Football League teams. And the way this works is they bring me in on game day before they go down to the stadium. Whether a team is home or away, they always stay in a hotel the night before the game. And if you're an old football fan, the first coach to bring me in many years ago was Miami Dolphins coach Don Shula. Coach said, okay, you're on at 8:30, and I want you to get my team all pumped up. I said, okay. So I asked him, I said, well, why the 8:30 slot? He said, well, that's easy. He said, at 9 o'clock is our pregame meal. Pregame meal is always 4 hours before kickoff, all right? And I don't know how long you outside speakers are going to speak, and I don't have a whole lot of control. So here's the deal. You can speak as long as you want, but in 30 minutes, the entire team is going to get up and leave and go have their pregame meal. So knock yourself out. Now, that's a motivation to speak in 30 minutes, wouldn't you say? So I was doing this for quite a while, and you know, it's almost like a superstition with a lot of these players. Every one of the team comes up at the end, shakes my hand, you know, and then they go off to the pregame meal. Well, it wasn't too long into this that I understood that there's kind of a little bit of a wink, wink, nudge, nudge secret handshake that's involved if you do a really good job in this 30-minute presentation. One of the members of the team says, hey, that was a really good job. Why don't you come next door and join us for the pregame meal? So if you get to go to the pregame meal, you've made it as their speaker, okay? And obviously, I'm not saying that by having to follow up with, and you know, I've never been to a pregame meal. I'm hoping someday that'll... No, I've been fortunate. I've been invited to quite a few. And normally, like I said, they take over a whole floor of a hotel. There's security and everything because the fans have it figured out. And it's all protected. This one particular team I want to tell you about because of the point I want to make. We're in a hotel where the steam tables, the food preparation, was on a different floor than the meeting rooms. So the guy gives me the secret handshake. He says, come join us for pregame. You got to take an elevator and go up a few floors, but we'll be there. I said, okay, let me shake the rest of the team's hand, and I'll be there. So I shake all the rest of the hands. I go out the door. I see an elevator close, and I go, hey, hold that elevator. And I jump onto an elevator just as the door is shut, and I realize I'm on the elevator with 8 offensive linemen. And as we stated in the earlier story, that means 8 of the largest people God ever made. So you know where this story's going, and it's not going up. The door shuts, and the elevator goes, and just stops mid-floor. And these 8 guys freak out. And they all turn to me and say, what'd you get on that elevator for, man? You made it too heavy. And I'm thinking, you got to be kidding. This is the one time in my life I feel petite. And they're blaming me? So I realized, man, they're hyperventilating. Half of them are afraid they're going to miss the game. They're all afraid they're going to miss their meal. And it's like, man, I better get serious or they're going to have me for pregame. I said, okay, guys, listen, I've always wanted to ask a room full of offensive linemen this question. An elevator full will have to do. Here's the question. I didn't play ball as a kid. I'm only a fan. But doesn't it ever bother you guys that you never get in the newspaper? Nobody ever talks about you. Or I should correct, they only talk about you if you screw up. You know, like center hikes ball over kicker's head, playoff hopes are dashed. Doesn't that ever bother you? And they said, you don't get it, do you? I said, no, I don't. You better explain it to me. I said, listen, man, it's not our job to get in the newspaper. It's our job to get the quarterback or the running back or the wide receiver into the newspaper because they're scoring points. Our job is to help move the ball down the field, get over the goal line, and score points. We want to win games. It doesn't matter who gets the credit. And I said to them, man, you know, if we ever get out of this elevator, you guys should go on the road with me. I can't think of one company, business, organization, society, school, anything that I talk that doesn't need to hear that message. We need to work together as a team. It doesn't matter who gets the credit. Now, interestingly enough, I usually stop the story there. You'd be amazed how many people will come up to me and say, hey, you didn't finish. Did you ever get out of that elevator? No? We perished? Trust me, with that many millions of dollars worth of salary in that elevator, if they had to use a can opener, they'd get that thing open. We got out of there pretty quick, and it was a happy ending. They even won that day. So, I mean, everybody matters. It doesn't matter who gets the credit. We are going to work together. That is teamwork in a nutshell. Respect, diversity, sacrifice, creativity, all elements of an effective team. Okay, let's start bringing this home, all right? What have we done so far? We've talked about haziness, losing sight of what's important in your life. You beat the hazies by pursuing and practicing your priorities: attention, connection, reflection, all right? Secondly, we talked about laziness, lacking the self-discipline to bring your life back into balance. The endurance triangle: forecast, focus, fun. We got one more triangle to talk about, and it's the antidote for craziness, okay? Here's the definition of craziness. Craziness is a lifestyle that's out of control. A lifestyle that is out of control. It's the broadest of the three terms. It's the person that says, I don't know whether I can get this figured out or not. I mean, this is just insane. I'm trying my best. I'm just hoping that I can, somehow figure it out. It's like the marathon runner who says to himself, you know what, I think I figured out a way. It's kind of a crazy way, but I think I figured out a way to win a marathon, and I'm a mediocre marathon runner. Basically, the way I'm going to win the marathon is I'm not going to run the full 26 miles. I got a way to figure out how to take shortcuts, how to, cut down side streets. Basically, I'm going to win this thing because I'm only going to run about 15 miles while everybody else is running the full marathon. That's great. That's also known as breaking the rules. That's crazy. I mean, nowadays they put these chips on your shoes so that you can't do that. I mean, they're going to catch you cheating. But I use that illustration, as crazy as it is, because somebody in this room needs to hear that the way you're living your life is just as crazy. That there's only so long you'll be able to say to yourself, well, you know what? This would have killed a lesser man, but I got the body of a bull. I got the heart of a champion. My physical condition is just impeccable. Haven't been to the doctor in 8 years, but it's a beautiful body. No, you're going to have a heart attack just like anybody else that's living the crazy way you're living. The crazy person that says, you know what, my family understands. I got me a great partner. I got a great husband, great wife. They understand. They're used to not seeing me. Heard that a lot in divorce court, too. My kids understand. It's a very hard driving job. They understand. They get it. I don't know what else I can do. Well, your kids are paying really close attention, and maybe it's not as good as you think it is. You got to stop thinking of yourself as the exception and start thinking of yourself as someone who is going to play by the rules. How do you beat craziness in this crazy world? Well, to continue with the running motif, you beat the crazies by pursuing and practicing pacing. P-A-C-I-N-G. Pacing. It's the runner's equivalent to balance. You will achieve balance by pacing your life's race. Realizing that the only way you're going to run life as a marathon is to do it very intentionally by pacing yourself. The business community has no time for that. They're getting better, but they have no time for that. I mean, it's even in their language. Get that kid out of business school and hire him right away, and he's got real potential, so what do you put him on? The fast track. We'll burn him out even quicker than just a regular person. It's just, you don't win a marathon by running faster, but you do it by running smarter, and you pace yourself. So, one final triangle, the pacing triangle. I give credit to the inspiration to this. I read years ago a book that really impacted me. This guy has written a bestseller, by the way. Any of you that have ever been looking for a job or helping someone look for a job, anybody ever read the book, What Color is Your Parachute? Yeah, okay, Dick Bowles. It's the classic book on how to do interviews and how to get jobs. It's great. And it's a book I wish I had written because Dick is smart enough. He re-releases it every year with the words updated on the cover. Man, that's like balancing work and life. Updated, a new paragraph since I've been to CCUMC. Sell another 7 copies. That'd be great, man. I'm getting into double figures. Woo! But another book that Dick has done, much lesser known, is called The 3 Boxes of Life. And in it, Dick proposes that in the American culture, we are moving through 3 segments of our life, when in reality, we should be kind of enjoying all 3 aspects in every time of our life. So, I have borrowed that, I've retitled it so that it works a little more memorably for me, but here's what the pacing triangle looks like. In the first one, you're going to write first corner, you're going to write the word learning. Second one, you're going to write the word labor. And the third one, you're going to write the word leisure. Learning, labor, and leisure. Now, you can understand how that sounds like life in America today. When a kid is born, I'm very blessed with a crew of grandkids. My grandkids have already been thrown into the box of learning. I hear my kids. Get that kid into a good preschool so we can get that kid into a good school. So we can get that kid into a good college, so we can get that kid into a good grad program, so we can get that kid into a good post-grad program. And it's all about the schooling. And if your kids are like my kids, eventually they'll say, why do I have to go to so much school? And one of the classic American answers is, you got to go to school so you can get yourself a good job. The box of labor, the box that we are all in right now. I work, I work. I work, I work, I work. I work, I work. I work, I work. I work, I work, I work. You ever take a break? Nope, got that coming. When? I'm going to retire. I'm going to get into the box of leisure. I'm going to buy me a condo on a golf course. I'm going to play 130 holes of golf every day. When I die, they're going to cremate me. I'm going to spread my ashes on that 12th green. I've never been able to par that sucker, so I'm going to kill it. And they will put you in a 4th box, I know, for the macabre, but we're talking about these 3, okay? What a horrible way to live life. Here's the big finale, folks. Save this to the very end so that you would stay with me. Against the advice of my wife and my attorney, I'm going to do something to end this presentation that you may find visually disturbing, mentally troubling. I'm going to attempt to dance. Many are not able to see this, so please be advised, okay? Living in 3 boxes of life stinks. What you want to do is dance your way through all 3 boxes at every stage of life. Was I not kidding? Is this not visually disturbing? Will you not be up at 3 a.m. this morning? Oh my gosh, I see a large blonde glob just bouncing across the stage. It's troubling and hopefully unforgettable, because that's the way we want to move through life. Hey, you got kids, it's the law. They got to go to school. If they don't go to school, you go to jail. All right? No problem there. Leisure. Kids love to play. So they got that part pretty well wired. I tell groups when I talk about parenting, the best advice I can give you in terms of parenting your kids, teach your kids the value of work. Help them understand labor. Get them doing chores around the house. Heck, get them their first job the same way you got your first job. Lie about their age. Get them in there. Help them to see all 3 areas. And then how about you and me? We're in the box of labor. When's the last time you read a book? Oh, I can stop you right there. On the plane, on the way here. History of University Technology. 1954 to 1958. The glory years. Okay, whoa. Time out. Not work-related books. When was the last time you read a book just to enjoy it? You know, I ask this all the time. The most common answer I get is, if those are the parameters, 8th grade, Little Women. And I speak predominantly to men. So that's a troubling answer on many levels. Hey, read for fun. And then how about leisure? When's the last time you had fun? Got you there. Last night, Fremont Street. Bada bing, bada boom. How about before that? Last year's convention. Oh, really? What do you do in between? I work, man. I work. You know, maybe there's a reason why your kids are saying, Mom, Dad, get up. Come on, let's do something. Let's play. And it's going to make retirement that much better. My dad, bless his heart, if you ever played Monopoly, you know, the board's built around real streets in Atlantic City. And the 4 railroads were all 4 real railroads at one point. My dad worked on one of those 4 railroads. It was more than just a Monopoly card. The Reading Railroad. 40 plus years on the Reading Railroad. I grew up in Philadelphia. And he finally retires. I'm living in Southern California. He's in Philadelphia. He's about 2 weeks into his retirement. He calls me, and he's whispering on the phone. I go, hey, Dad, how's it going? And his first words are, son, your mother, she's driving me crazy. And then he adds, but don't worry, I just took care of it. And the way he said it was so weird. I had this picture of my mother strangled on the floor. I said, Dad, what'd you do? He said, don't worry, I got myself a job. I said, Dad, you just retired. Relax, it's part-time, doesn't mess with my Social Security. Big to seniors. And then he says, as only a senior can say, when I said, well, where are you working? He says, oh, I got a job down at the old folks' home. You did? He says, yeah, they gave me a brand new 15-passenger van. I'm driving old people to their medical appointments at a hospital every afternoon. It's great. I'm working on my stand-up comedy. I'm cracking jokes. The van's full every day. It's terrific. It's just rip snorting. It's terrific. He can't stop telling me about this, and he just keeps saying, it's great. The van is full every day. It's great. It's great. You know, finally he lets it leak. It's great. The van is full every day. And some people, some days there's like 3 people who actually have appointments. And I said, wait a minute. You're telling me you're taking 15 people to the hospital and only 3 of them need to go? And he replies, son, you ever been to the old folks' home? The van is where it's at. Bless his heart, I miss him. And then till the day he died, lifetime learning, he was helping little preschoolers as a tutor as they learned how to read. Learning, labor, leisure. Dance through those. Ladies and gentlemen, that's how to achieve the movement towards balance in life. Well, my time is up, and I am through. And I want to thank you for your attention. You've been the best group I've been with all morning. And I apologize that I have to go. I'm actually doing a presentation in Reno tonight, so I am hustling out of here to catch a flight. Sounds like I'm part of Gamblers Anonymous. I'm doing Vegas, now I'm doing Reno, and we'll end up over at, Anyway, it's a delight to be with you. If I can help you out at all, go to the very complicated, hard-to-remember website, BillButterworth.com, and you'll be able to get a hold of me. Thank you again to the leadership of this organization for having me here. You really have been a delight. Let's all meet at the finish line of life's marathon, knowing that we didn't lose our balance. We ran all the way through. God bless you. Thank you. Yes. Oh, you're welcome. Is my mic still on? I thought this group was great. Actually, I thought they were really great. Oh.
Break right now, everybody. Then we have concurrent sessions at 10:30.